Welcome to another tutorial. This time I want to go over something I keep talking about in the office hours, which is this sort of idea of mining. And so it'll be a sort of start on a bunch of tutorials where I take previous content and kind of smush it together. So do expect a lot of links in the video description in this one. But the principle was I wanted to make something where you could, whack a pickaxe against some ore and get some resources out of that. I keep talking about it because of colliders. That's the first link in the video description will be colliders. Before I get too much into it, let me go ahead and show you what we're going to build, and that way you'll understand. So up over here into Smooth POV, I've got the assets over here. You can find the assets in the video description as well, and this world will be saved to my tutorial folders. You can come pick it up. So over here I have the setup finished build. So we have this pickaxe, and we have an ore clump. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this ore clump because I don't want to delete the only one I've got, basically. And then I can go ahead and take this pickaxe, and I can wield it. 1, 2, 3, and it turns into a clump of copper ore in this case. So that's what we're going to be building today. When you're done, you'll have hopefully the exact same setup, and we can get started. So over here I have the assets. This is how they'll be set up if you come into the world. Like I said, the description of where these assets come from is in the video description. I'll also put some text here in the world before I publish it. So we have a bunch of ore here, so you could go ahead and try this with a bunch of ores. I even took this into Blender and I duplicated the copper ore into some sort of like iron looking ore here. So you've got like a little chunk, a big chunk, and then the outcrop, and there's also crystals going up to this sort of, I don't know, gravity looking crystal. And then of course there's a pickaxe. So first of all, let's start making the pickaxe. What we're going to be doing here is operating on a principle where we make things separately and they talk to each other via dynamic impulses and dynamic variables. This is how I recommend that you build basically everything these days. The principle behind this is that you can save them separately, but they'll still work. They'll still interoperate between each other. Let's go ahead and get that building. So go ahead, grab here the pickaxe. And we're going to bring it to the left here. Actually, I'm going to duplicate it just in case I need another blank one. Leave that here. Good habit to get into. And so the first thing I want to do is I want to set up a collider on this pickaxe that will register when I hit something. So if we look at the pickaxe here, there's actually two sides to a pickaxe. This one at the back here, which is sort of used for more sort of wider gigging, and of course the pointy end, which is used for, more targeted picking at the rocks, etc. We want to use this end. Up to you. If you wanted to use your own pickaxe model, that's totally fine as well. First of all, I'm going to prepare the pickaxe. So with my developer tooltip equipped, I'm going to go ahead and inspect the pickaxe and take a look around its hierarchy. You'll see it's named minepix.fpx. I'm going to go ahead and just rename it to pickaxe. I always recommend that you name everything that you deal with, and that's just because it'll be clearer later that what exactly anything is. So we're going to go ahead and at the top of our pickaxe, we're going to hit star to create an empty chart. And then I'm going to go ahead and move that empty chart to the tip of the pickaxe here. So this will take a little bit of adjustment. Don't worry too much. Put it on the tip of the pickaxe there. Perfect. Now we're going to add a collider to it. Like I said earlier, see the video link in the description for the colliders tutorial. There is a lot going on there. In it, I talk about how the worst colliders to use are active colliders, but this is one of the cases where you should use an active collider, and so I wanted to illustrate that. So I'm going to go ahead and create a sphere collider here, and I'm going to make it of type active. Just scroll through this till it says active, basically. Then I need to make sure it's the right size. Easiest way to do this is to unselect it from the inspector gizmos and then reselect it. And then you'll get this kind of box and you can see, hey, that's way too small. So we can then hit up the radius. So for example, here I push 50. We'll now see that square. Now do remember that it is a sphere collider. So it's a sphere within that square, but it does let you see the size of that collider quite easily. I'm going to drop that down to around about 20. That looks good for registering hit. And that's us done with the colliders. So now we're onto Logic's land for just the pickaxe. So with my Logic tooltip out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to first of all set up some optimizations. So people say, hey, active colliders are bad. I do generally agree, but hey, we need to use them this time, but there is something we can do to make this better. And I talk about this in the office hours all the time, where I say, hey, maybe if no one's holding the pickaxe, we can turn off the collider, which also makes sense just in case anyone sort of, I don't know, ran up to the pickaxe with one of those ore chunks, it wouldn't work. So what we're going to do here is go ahead and grab our sphere collider and push secondary. We will need this in a moment as well, so it's a good double duty getting out here. And we're going to go to the pickaxe. We're going to grab grabbable here, push secondary over here, and then we're just going to say on the node inspector, we're going to go to interaction grabbable. Is grabbable grabbed? Pass in the top of the grabbable into is grabbable grabbed, and pass the output into enabled. So now if you go back to that collider, which we actually should name collider, just so we know what we're looking at. There we go, collider. You'll see that this sphere collider, which is active, is not enabled because I'm not holding it. If I hold it, you'll see it's now active. And there you go. That's one of the reasons why I say, hey, you can optimize things away such that it doesn't make sense. It doesn't, well, it does make sense such that it makes sense to use whatever you want to use. So now we need to start registering collisions. Now, if you remember from my collider tutorial series, those collision-based nodes are inside the physics folder. We want to use onCollisionStart here. The reason why we use start is we're also going to hook up the sound that occurs when you do a pickaxe motion to the start of the collision. You hear the sound when you hit a pick into the earth. You don't hear the sound when you remove it, which would be on collision end. So we want to say here onCollisionStart on the sphere collider. We'll now get collision events when something collides with it. So if I go ahead and waggle my, let's think of something that will actually collide. Another pickaxe might. Nope, we need a primitive collider for now. So if I go ahead and grab a box, shrink that down, inspect it just to get rid of the stuff. Now when I'm not holding it as well, so I need to hold it, and then we'll get events there. I just forgot about the holding thing. I was just talking about it, and I forgot about it. We should also get things with my hand now as well, and that. So there we go. We're getting events. Need to hold it, then we get events. Whoops. There we go. So we're getting events. So what we need to do here is, first of all, detect, hey, what are we holding? Is it mineable? And so to do that, I'm going to go ahead and hit back. And we're going to go to slots, get slot. And this is how you turn a collider, which is what comes out of onCollisionStart, onCollisionEnd, and onCollisionStay, into a slot. So this will say, hey, give me the slot that we are colliding with. Now this output here of getSlot is only visible for one update cycle. So when I hold this, you'll see, hey, there's nothing in there even though we're getting events. And that's because this is updated faster than you can see to the output of the collision and then back to null again. And it needs to do that such that the next event or the next collision can be registered and appreciated and handled. So to get this sorted, we're going to go ahead and take a look at it as though that didn't say null. Just imagine that that has a value there, and it will have a value there when that event occurs. So what we're going to do is we're going to check, first of all, for the object root. I talk about object roots in another video, linked in the video description. Object roots are basically somewhere in the hierarchy where we've said, hey, this is the root of the object. So in the case of our ore vein, the top part of the ore vein that exists on our map is going to be the object root, but the object that we collide with might be below that in the hierarchy. So we want to go up there to get properties and talk about it and take a look at it. So we'll go ahead and do get object root here. And then from the object root, we wanted to find out, does it have a tag? Now tags I think I've talked about a while ago. I also have a video on them, linked in the video description, called Tags and Why They Aren't Evil. They're mostly misunderstood tags. In this case, we're using tags for a great intention. What we can say here is, does the object root have the tag mineable? So is this a mineable object root? And then this will output a true or false value. Again, here this will only be valid for the length of that impulse, so right now it's going to be false. What we can do to visualize what we've just done here is we can use this if node. So we can go here with our if node, and we can say onCollisionStart, if has tag, and then what we've got here is, does the object root have this tag mineable? If it does, we'll get an impulse here. If it does not, we'll get an impulse here. So if I go ahead, grab this, and knock this into the tip of my pickaxe, you'll see, hey, we're getting falses. And that's because this cube does not have that mineable tag. If I go ahead and I edit this cube, and I add the mineable tag to it up here in the tag field, and we knock against it here, see, we're still getting false. It's probably because either I've spelt mineable wrong, or I haven't added the object root component to the box. So mineable spelled correctly. Let's go ahead and attach that component. We'll do that again on the ore when we get to it, but it's in transform object root. And now we should, there we go. So now we're getting trues there. So you see, hey, it's recognizing this cube is mineable. That's fantastic. So we're almost done with the pickaxe side of the logic. The last two things I want to do for the pickaxe is for it to notify the object that it's been hit and to play the sound. So let's do those next. So we're going to go ahead and play the sound first, just because I want to do it in the order. Feel free to change up the order. So if the object is mineable, then we want to play the sound with audio play one shot. Play one shot checks our audio clip input, which comes from the same folder, and we're going to use this. It's just a basic impact pickaxe noise I found on Freesound. Link on where I found it in the video description. Drop it in there, and then we'll see that we have that. Now we want to specify where this audio comes from. Right now it will come from the exact location of the play one shot node. We kind of want it to come from where the hit location is. Luckily the hit location is kind of where the collider is, so we'll go ahead and drop that into the slot here. Whilst I'm at it, I always like to make sure that my group is set for sound effects. If it's a sound effect, please set it to a sound effect. I see a lot of people that will set play one shots to not be sound effects when they are sound effects, and it drives me mad. So please set sound effects, if it's a sound effect, to a sound effect. You can also do volume, all sorts of other stuff here. See my tutorial on play one shot where I've got sort of more information on what each of those properties do, linked in the video description. I think there's one where I talk about playing sound from a button, etc. Maybe I should do one on just play one shot. Let me know what you think in the video description. If you want to see one on all the properties on play one shot, let me know and I can make a tutorial on that one. So there we go. That is our sound that's going to happen when a mineable object is hit. The last thing that we need to do is notify that object that it was hit. For that, we're going to be using dynamic impulse triggers. Dynamic impulse triggers were explained in my dynamic impulses tutorial, which I believe is part of the Twitch tutorial, but I kind of sort of segued around it because they were super important to explain at that time. Essentially what we're doing though is we're giving like a shoulder tap or a poke to another slot and saying, hey, this particular tag, which is the second input here, has occurred. Please do something about it. So in this case here, we're going to make our tag just hit, HIT, and we're going to be targeting that object root again. So now it's all complete. It reads, let me move stuff around just a little bit. For those who organize your logics, good on you. I don't tend to go that particularly sort of obsessive over it. This looks fine to me. What we're going to be doing is we're going to say, hey, when the sphere collider at the end of the pickaxe hits an object, detect if it has the mineable tag. If it has the mineable tag, play that hit sound and then trigger that dynamic impulse trigger. That's the logic for the pickaxe done, so we can go ahead and pack it up. To do that, I'm going to walk through the logics, go to the top of the pickaxe here, hit star to make an empty child. This will name it pickaxe-child. I just delete the word child and do logics here. I know a lot of people will usually just make a slot called logics. I find that really confusing. When I've got a packing route on my tooltip here and it says pickaxe-logics, I'm so much more confident about what that logics is for. So please name your slots something other than just logics. It drives me mad. With that star key button, you get like a free name anyway. You just replace child with logics and you get a really nice name. I'm going to hold down secondary to pack that. And also pack this node over here. And then we're done with these. I've explained it before, but these hanging around and doing weird things is a bug. We are trying to work on it as soon as we can. So this is our pickaxe done. We now need to go ahead and process our ore. So I'm going to go ahead and close this inspector. We'll leave this open because we'll need it shortly. This is a little bit of a longer one. Let me know if that's a problem in the comments section. I think making a full, concise object as detailed as possible is totally worth it. So what we're going to do here is kind of extract this ore from this collection. So I want this middle one here. I'm going to go ahead and inspect it. I'm going to go to the top of it so I can see where it is in amongst everything else. So there it is. Big ore _1 _ cube 01. Great. I'm going to hit the green square to duplicate it. And then I'm going to parent it to the world root. And then hit down. And what that's done is it's moved it out of the collection. We have our own isolated copy of it with that one still there in the collection, just in case I need to go ahead and grab another one. Then I'm going to go ahead and reset the scale, which should make it a lot bigger. Oh, yep, there it is. That's more goodly sized. Looks like we're going for iron ore this time. That's great. We'll make iron ore, and I'll leave that in the world as well. And so here we go. We've got the ore chunk up here. I'm going to do a couple more things to it just to make it sort of more suitable. First of all, I like to keep rotations reset. You'll see that it's kind of offset from its origin point. So its origin point is here, but its actual visual is all the way over here. So we can fix that with this lovely create pivot at center button. Once you've hit create pivot at the center, we can hit the up arrow here and we'll go to the pivot. And I'm going to go ahead and rename that instantly. Once again, good reminder, please rename everything the moment you can. So now we have our iron vein with a pivot at the center. And so now you'll see that that gizmo is more better aligned to the center of that iron ore. And now I'm going to add some components to it. So first of all, I'll add grabbable to it. Secondary, because I know from the logics that we're about to hit up, we need an object root. So I'm going to go ahead and add object root. And now that object is a lot better and easier to handle with. Like I can duplicate this, I can move it around the world, I can decorate my world with it. It won't do anything yet though, so let's hook it up so that it responds to the pickaxe saying, hey, I mined you. So to do that, first thing we need to do is set up the colliders for it. If we go under big ore 1 cube 1, you'll see that we currently have a mesh collider set to no collision. This is unideal because we don't want to collide with mesh colliders. That's not performant. If you see my video, again, link to the video description, like I said, lots of links today, you'll see convex hull decomposition, which is often misunderstood, but it is just a way to make better, more performant colliders for a mesh collider. In this case, we could use a box collider, but it wouldn't have that sort of visceral feel where we hit the actual ore here. If we used a box collider, if I hit it out here in the corner, it might register a hit. Same with other types of colliders. Depending on your object, you might be able to get away with more primitive colliders. For this case, I thought I'd take the opportunity to also do convex hull decomposition to show you why it's cool. So I'm going to go ahead and first of all, I need to set the mesh collider to the type of collider I want the convex hulls to be. So I'm going to go ahead and set that to static. Then I'm going to hit convex hull decomposition, and you should be good with the default settings. You can play around with these. I have no idea what they do, as I said in my convex hull decomposition tutorial. They're just based on the algorithm that we're using, which is VHACD 2.0. Anyway, we get a result here, which is actually really good, and it shows the power of convex hull decomposition. You'll see here that we've got convex hulls that kind of match that ore shape very, very well, and they're a lot more performant than that mesh collider. You might be able to tweak those settings and get less hulls, but it doesn't matter at the end of the day. So what we're going to do here is just click Remove Visuals, close this dialog, and all those colliders are then in place. What we can do now that we're done with that is then remove that mesh collider so that it's not bogging us down performance-wise. Under here, you'll see all the holes still exist, but that's totally fine. That's what they're meant to do. And that is also the reason for the object root. When we collide with one of these holes, we're going to be colliding down here. We need to go to that object root. And so that's why we use that ascension in the pickaxe to go to the object root. Just going to click that just in case so that we get rid of all object roots, but there were none. And so now we should be able to collide with this. The last thing we need to do, of course, actually, though, is add the Mineable tag to it. So I'm going to go ahead and add Mineable to it. And then if I bring over my pickaxe here, this is the one that collides with it. We're going to go ahead and give it a swing into the ore. Now you'll see that we're getting multiple events here, and that is a byproduct of the convex hulls. We're having multiple collision events here. There are better ways to handle that, maybe on the sound side or maybe on the behavioral side. For this example, I'm just going to do a quick fix for this tutorial. So do bear in mind that this is a quick fix. It's quite a lot of sort of like basic things here that I'm doing that you might want to do in like a full game. This is one of them where the pick logic is a little bit sort of arbitrary and not real well thought out. If you're looking for things like, you know, durability, how strong the pickaxe is, stuff like that. I'm thinking back to the RuneScape days, you know, where you had like a steel pickaxe and then a rune pickaxe was so much better. This isn't the tutorial for you. You'd have to make that custom. That gets a little bit too complicated. To fix that multiple sound and resultant multiple dynamic impulse trigger effect, we're just going to insert a little timeout between the if and this play one shot. So in our node browser, we're going to go to flow and then a local impulse timeout. Drop this in here, connect these two up, and then about half a second should be fine. So we'll put in 0.5 into here, and then we'll repack, hence pickaxe logics, repack, and repack this as well because it's on a different chain. Pick up our, get rid of our gizmos, pick up our pickaxe again, give it a little swing. Much better. If you hear another like pickaxe noise in the background and you think there's still a duplicate, that's just me who forgot to unplug my desktop headphones and I can't find them right now, so we'll just continue. That's what you get from no editing. So now our pickaxe is registering that the ore has been hit. We just need to respond to that hit event on the ore. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you a basic sort of HP system for the ore. We will just call it a hit counter in this case because it's not really HP, but we're going to make it so that this ore chunk has to be hit 3 times before it breaks. We might want to make it so like, hey, maybe these crystals have a higher hit chance. Maybe they need to be hit like 10 times or something before they break. But for this particular ore, 3 times is all we're going to do for the tutorial. I'll point out where that 3 is just so you can change it if you'd like to. But let's go ahead and get that sorted. So you got to remember that the pickaxe sends that dynamic. Let's move this all the way out the way because it keeps getting in the way. That dynamic impulse trigger is sent by that pickaxe. We can actually pick it up quite easily in our node browser. We go to Flow, Dynamic Impulse Receiver, and then we're looking for the hit dynamic impulse. Now, right now we haven't connected this to the actual ore, so it's not going to do anything if I hit it. But the moment I pack this these 2 nodes into that ore node, it will start activating. It will start sending out impulses. So we just continue from there. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep a variable of type integer to store how many hits it's got. And when a hit event comes in, we're going to do a ++ on that. So when we receive a hit, we add to our hit counter, which is in this variable. And then immediately following that, we go into an if. And this is to see, hey, how many hits do we have? And this is where you can decide your hit number. So if you're doing one of the other resources out there, you can maybe say, hey, a bigger number of hits. We're saying, hey, is the number of hits in this case, is this number of hits greater than or equal to, this is the greater than or equal to node. You can find it in operators. I sped up there a bit, so I'll slow down. So yeah, this is greater than or equal to. In this case, we put in 3. So this now says, hey, when this is hit, we add to our hit count, and if the hit count is greater than or equal to 3, we will pulse this node, and if it is less than 3, it will pulse this node. So we're only interested when it's greater than or equal to 3. Let's pack that now so that you can see that working. To pack that, we're going to go ahead and inspect the ore chunk. It's natural that we'll get one of the convex holes now. What we'll do here is go down to the iron vein child, rename this to iron vein logics, grab our logics tip, pack this up, and then we're instantly going to unpack it. The reason we're unpacking it is so that we can see what's happening. We can see the logics working. So here you'll see that our hit is 0. And what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and take our pickaxe, hit. You'll see that it went up to 1. Hit again. It went up to 2. Hit again. And you'll see that this impulsed up here saying, hey, it's been hit 3 times. So there we go. That's working. I'm going to quickly go ahead and reset that integer variable back down to 0. We always want it to start at 0. So I'll just use a write node with no value here to reset that down to 0, and then we can get rid of that write node, as we were just doing that particular operation for testing. So now what do we need to do when we've had 3 hits? What I'm going to do in this case is exactly what we did over there. We're going to replace the ore vein with just a chunk of ore. That might not be accurate for, again, a full-on video game. In a full-on video game, you might want the ore to fly off, and maybe this rock turns to like a regular rock, and then later it comes back and it's got those grey nodules on it that lets you know there's ore back in there. That's what RuneScape did in the old days. They basically had regular sort of ore-looking rocks, and then when you mined them, their color would go away a little bit. So you knew hey, there's no ore in this rock right now. And then the color would return and everyone would swarm at it and try and mine it again. I did look in the new version of RuneScape. They've changed up that mechanic to make it so people don't have to sort of swarm around an ore and try and get it first. But there we go. That's a bit of unrelated history. So anyway, to do that, what we need to do is basically swap this resource here for the iron ore resource from our collection. So let's go ahead and extract that from our collection. So it's this tiny little one here. So I'm going to go ahead and inspect it and do the similar operations that I did before. Go up to the root here, duplicate it so it stays in the collection, parent it to the world root, move it away, hit down so we're just focused on it, reset its scale, and then find it. There it is over here. We'll go ahead and we'll create a pivot at the center of it, go up, rename it. Remember, rename everything. If you don't rename everything, you won't know what things are. So we'll change this to iron ore. We'll give it a grabbable, so transform interaction grabbable. And then we're done. We've got our nice little iron ore chunk. So now we need to do a sort of switcheroo with this. What we're going to do is we're going to parent our iron ore to the iron ore vein. So grab this, parent it. We're going to go ahead and reset its position, its rotation, and its scale. And so now you'll see it's, I go into no clip. It's hanging out there in the middle. I actually want it to be on the ground more, so I'm going to go ahead and move it down to the ground. And maybe up its scale a little bit, so it looks like you've got more ore out of that rock. There we go. That's a bit better. Otherwise, it'll be a bit silly for this huge rock to only give you like a little bit of ore. Actually, I might want to raise that up. I just realized we're not on the ground perfectly with the ore, so I'll raise that up just a little bit so it's in line with those lower rocks, and then that should be fine. I just didn't want it appearing under the ground once we're done. And then we're going to turn it off so that it's inactive. So now you'll see if we fly in, hey, it's not there. A user won't be able to gain access to it, unless, of course, they have an inspector, but they shouldn't have an inspector. And now we just need to, once 3 hits occur, we are going to, so I'll explain before we do it, and then I'll do it in Logics. We're going to parent this to the location that the iron vein is parented to, and then we're going to delete the iron vein. So what that does is bumps this up to one hierarchy higher, and then deletes the iron vein. We delete the iron vein so you can't cheat at the system and get more. If you wanted a regenerating rock, you might have to do that a slightly different way. Let me know if you'd be interested in that, and I can make another video. This is just the scenario we're doing for this video, and we are getting on a bit, so we'll just keep on with it. So to do that parenting process, the first thing we're going to need is a reference to the iron ore. So I'll grab that reference to the iron ore. We'll also need a reference to the iron vein. So we'll do that. If you ever get these cards confused, by the way, you can pull out the name here and push secondary, and you can see what each one is. Again, this is why you name things. So here's iron vein, here's iron ore. So like I said, what we need to do is parent the iron ore to the thing which the iron vein is parented to. I say that because it might be tempting for you or other users just to parent it to root slot. Please stop using this node. You need to be more intelligible about where you're parenting stuff to, or you're going to affect culling systems, world management systems, organization systems. The much better approach is to say, hey, parent the iron ore to the thing that the iron vein was parented to, which is what we're going to do. So the first activity there is set parent. Oh dear, I've done all sorts of things that I shouldn't have done there. There we go. And we're going to say, hey, when we've hit it 3 times, we want to parent the iron ore to the, where are we, get parent slot, to the parent of the vein. And that means if the vein is parented to, I don't know, a level, a mine, or whatever, it won't litter your world root. It will just go up to exactly where the iron vein was. So there we go. We have set that parent. And then we're going to set the iron ore to be active so that it's visible and people can grab it. So that's set slot active. Ooh. And then we want the iron ore to be active. So we'll say true. And then the last thing we want to do is go ahead and destroy the iron vein. And there we go. So we're going to run through this again just so that it's clear. When we receive a hit event, we wait till we've got 3 or greater events. Once we have 3 or greater events, we do the following thing in quick succession. We set the iron ore, that's the ore that you pick up, the round ore that you'd go smelt later, to the parent of the iron vein to keep our world tidy. We make the iron ore visible, and then we destroy the vein. So that should be everything. So we're going to go back to our iron ore logics, iron vein objects even, and we're going to go ahead and set our packing route just again, pack everything away. We can also pack these away. We can get rid of that, and then we should be good to go. Of course, I don't want to destroy this one because this is like my template one. I might sort of stuff this under the map and then duplicate it across the world. And I could actually do that, right? I can just grab this across my rocky terrain and, have a few there. What you really want to see is it working. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Grab our pickaxe. walk up to our iron ore. 1, 2, 3, and we've got our iron ore here that we can then take away and, you know, sell or trade or whatever. So there we go. To illustrate the flexibility of this, you saw me write logics for this pickaxe and that it wasn't connected to the iron ore. And that means it actually also works with the copper ore, which we made at the start before we started recording. This is my example. So I'll duplicate the copper vein. 1, 2, 3, and it's copper. So they work interchangeably. And that's what's really good when you start making things that are interchangeable. They can be saved separately as well. So for example, if I wanted to make a group that we're working on this mining game, I could save to that group the pickaxe separately from the ore, and they would work separately. And that way, if, you know, there's any problems, I can just spawn them out from the inventory. So make sure that you're thinking about that when you're building things. Hook things up wirelessly. If I was you know, a more newer user to Neos, I might have hooked those up directly, but that means that they would have been fragmentary and they might have broken if they were separated. But these things stay together if they are, sorry, excuse me, if they are saved separately or handled separately. Same thing with duplication, right? I can have as many pickaxes as I want. I can give each player a pickaxe and there's no differences. I've made basically a prefab of a pickaxe. So there you go. I'm going to leave you off here. Like I said, I will save this world with some information about who owns the assets, and I'll also make it a little bit clearer. We'll have like a setup zone, which will be the copper ore, and then a non-setup list of resources, which will just be this blank pickaxe and this set of resources here with some accreditations, and that'll let you build your own mining game here. Maybe you could make a little station to sell the ore or smelt the ore. If you'd like to see that, maybe we'll do like a smelting tutorial next. That'll be a completely different set of components. Do let me know, and I'll continue that. Maybe we'll have an RPG series. I do hope that's been helpful. If you have any questions, comments, whatever you'd like, please leave it in the video description, or in the comment section, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Bye-bye.